Good evening. Welcome to the Friday, October 2nd edition of the Town of Dudley Board of Selectmen Cemetery Commissioners Highway Commissioners meeting. Before we begin, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law Chapter 30A, subsection 20 in the Governor's executive orders imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, although a quorum of the members of the Dudley Board of Selectmen will be physically present for this meeting. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted. The meeting will be live broadcast on Dudley Cable Access Television, Channel 192, and members of the public can also access the rebroadcast of the meeting online via YouTube. In the event of an unanticipated interruption in this broadcast, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Members of the public who wish to appear before the Board of Selectmen must make an appointment to appear on an upcoming agenda by contacting Michelle Jervis at selectmen@dudleyma.gov or by calling Michelle at 508-949-8001. Placement on the agenda is not guaranteed, however, and persons requesting to appear before the Board of Selectmen should not attend the meeting in person unless and until the appointment has been confirmed by the Board of Selectmen. Persons with matters appearing on a meeting agenda may request that they attend via virtual means, such as by conference call rather than in-person attendance. Such requests should be directed to Michelle Jervis at selectmen@dudleyma.gov or by calling Michelle at 508-949-8001 no more than 3 business days in advance so that appropriate arrangements can be made. However, persons or representatives with matters appearing on the meeting notice/agenda who wish to be physically present at the meeting must observe the following requirements. In accordance with existing requirements imposed by the Governor, meeting rooms will be limited in terms of the total number of persons that may be physically present at the same time, including board/committee members and staff. Satellite rooms will be available for overflow, and the meeting will be broadcast in real time in those satellite rooms. Persons who wish to participate in any particular matter on the meeting agenda will be asked to wait in a satellite room until that agenda item is reached, at which point attendees will be rotated between the main meeting room and satellite rooms as appropriate. Social distancing must be maintained in both the main meeting room and in satellite rooms. Face masks or coverings will be required in accordance with Governor Baker's May 1st, 2020 COVID-19 Order Number 31, order requiring face coverings in public places where social distancing is not possible. A copy of that order can be found at https://www.mass.gov/doc/May1-2020 masks and face coverings/download. Failure to comply with these requirements may lead to an attendee's removal from the meeting. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You don't have them? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I don't have our local numbers, but if the board would entertain a moment of silence for the over 200,000 deaths that we've experienced in the United States, and I believe it's over 1 million worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. First up, new business, we have Jeff Faulkner from Teagan Bond, PFAS Water SRF Project. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Jeff Faulkner from Teagan Bond. Here tonight to talk about some water and sewer projects. If you might remember at town meeting in June, town voted to move forward with a drinking water project through the SRF loan program and a infiltration and inflow project through the Clean Water SRF program. We're working on the design of that, but the next step is to produce paperwork to the state for the loan. In the first order of business is to determine who would sign that, and that's typically the town administrator. But the purpose of this meeting is to have the board vote to do that, and then next week we would have the town clerk certify that vote. So if we could have 2 potential votes, one to give the authority to the town administrator for the drinking water signing authority, and 1 vote for the Clean Water Signing Authority.
Thank you. Mr. Ruda, how would you want that motion worded?
I would just ask Mr. Faulkner just to kind of elaborate as to what
Sure.
what they'd actually be ceding to me.
Yeah, so the loan application is to basically produce the project. It would sign grant and loan paperwork as we proceed, the engineering agreement, the construction agreements, and some certification forms that the paperwork is in order for the SRF program. It certifies that the Water and Sewer Board is an enterprise fund, and that order of magnitude.
Any questions from the board? Yes, Mr. Johnson.
We're sure this is the next step for the town?
This is pursuant to the town meeting vote, the last town meeting vote. This makes it the next step. So.
Enacting the actions voted for by the townspeople at town meeting.
Correct.
Understood. Thank you. Want to be crystal clear about that.
It won't matter, Mr. Johnson.
But still, the town meeting voters voted for this, and we're executing their will, right?
That's how it works, I think.
Okay. Just to clarify your clarification.
Thank you.
Subject to
Sorry,
interpretation.
we're a little salty. It's Friday. We've been here 8 times this week.
Just 4.
So at this point, I think, Mr. Chairman, we need a motion to delegate authority for those 2 items on the agenda for the drinking water SRF paperwork and the clean water SRF paperwork to me.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Joseph.
just to, again, I hope further clarify that we are voting to grant the authority to the town administrator on behalf of the board to file the paperwork. That's all we're doing is giving you the authority to file the paperwork at this time. Is that correct?
Correct, and grant applications and so forth.
And the grant application.
Correct.
Then I would ask that when that motion is made, that both those elements are included in the motion.
Is that pretty much covered,
Yeah,
Mr.
was
Faulkner?
everyone provided with the paper?
Okay, we've
There's
got it.
actually a description of what the authority to file means from SRF's perspective. So if you can read that, and that's essentially what it's giving the town administrator the authority
Well,
to do.
Mr. Faulkner, I've already read it,
Okay.
and I just
Yeah.
want to be clear, since the clerk will certify the vote, that the vote includes the authority to file the paperwork and the authority to apply or to, is it to apply or to use, Jonathan, grant funding? What's appropriate?
The way it's worded is to file applications and execute agreements for grant assistance.
Hi, guys. I thought this was 6:30. I'm sorry.
Hey, John,
Do we vote him?
He's got to be, yes, he needs to be voted in.
Mr. Chair, make a motion
You
that,
guys got to vote in so I can remote participate.
Yeah,
thanks for that clarification, John.
thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, make a motion that we allow remote participation for John Massey,
what was that motion?
to let John Massey remote,
That John Massey?
yeah.
Okay. I'll second the motion.
Hey, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Kerry Siganovich, aye. Welcome, Mr. Marcy.
Thanks. Good to be here. Sorry I'm late, guys. I apologize.
Mr. Chair, since no one seconded my original motion, I make a new motion codifying what the town administrator read before as the motion. Need me to repeat it, or?
Do you have that, Michelle?
I have what you said, the delegate authority to town meeting for a drinking water SRF and the clean water SRF project, and to grant authority to the town administrator on behalf of the board to file the paperwork and authority regarding to grant applications.
Could we add to that pursuant to town meeting vote?
Pursuant to town meeting vote.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Gary Sigenovich, aye, unanimous. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to publicly thank the Water Sewer Commissioners for coming in tonight to help
Okay.
us with their business.
Yeah, can we hold off for a second? Excuse me. As a point of order,
Yes.
there's two groups of paperwork and the authority. One is the drinking water SRF paperwork, and the second is the clean water SRF paperwork. And with that in mind, could I ask that the previous motion be read again?
There, looks like there's two motions required. There's another page with
Yes,
a similar item.
yes.
So should we just make a motion to do them two separate ones, or do you want to update the first?
Well, they have to be voted on separately.
Okay, so we should do the next one. Want me to do this one?
Michelle, I think what Mr. Joseph is asking is, does the first one specifically state drinking water SRF paperwork?
It says drinking water and clean water.
Okay.
Oh, so it has both.
Oh, so we're good, that should work.
So, okay, I missed that.
And it has grant in it, too.
Yeah.
So,
It's
are
gonna
we,
be, it's gonna be specified with what you have in front of you, that's gonna be part of it. So it won't extend beyond the paperwork you've seen here, the authority.
are we good with one motion?
Yeah,
both?
he covered both in the motion.
Okay,
Great.
Very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir. Enjoy
Thanks,
the
Jeff.
rest of your Friday night.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay, next up on the agenda, we have the special town meeting warrant, vote and sign. I know in years past, what we've done is, the chair has stated the article numbers as we've gone through, and if anyone has an issue, say the word hold, and we'll come back to it. Is everyone good with that?
yep.
Mr. Chairman, before we begin, just a reminder that on October 6th, we're going to have the joint meeting with the FAA where we'll go over the supplemental, and they'll have a chance to weigh in on the financial articles on here as well.
That would be Monday, correct?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Glad I asked.
Oh, I should put it on my calendar.
I just did.
I remember doing it.
Okay, are we ready to begin?
Yep.
Excellent. Well, Article 1, Article 2, they're both routine. Article 3, unpaid bills of a prior year. Article 4, fiscal year 2021 supplemental budget appropriations. Article 5, town administrator. Article 6, Board of Selectmen.
Please indicate that Article 5 is sponsored by the town administrator, but that is simply calling for the transfer of money.
Yes, it is. Should I just say the article and the number then, instead of who sponsored it?
Yes.
Article 6. Article 7. Article 8. Article 9.
Can we go back to Article 8?
I'll put a hold on that. Article 9. Article 10. Article 11. Article 12.
Hey, just so you know, I mean, I don't feel we have to put a hold on that, but would have been nice
For which
to have the
one?
chair of the planning board here in case there are questions, because it's a long and a little convoluted article. But I don't wish to hold it up.
I understand, Mr. Joseph. I understand completely. Article 13. Article 14. Article 15.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Carmignani.
is it in order for me to make a statement or not at this time?
Let us go through, and once we go through, which article would you like to speak on, Mr. Carmignani?
You called Article 15, sir.
Article 15, Town Clerk and Board of Selectmen. Okay, I see that now.
So we've got a hold on that.
We've got to hold on that.
And Article 8.
I apologize, I was not reading the actual article, so. We'll put a hold on that, we'll come back to that, Mr. Carmignani. Article 16. And it looks like we have 16 articles. Mr. Johnson, you requested a hold on Article 8.
Through the chair, Mr. Town Administrator, could you explain the logic behind what we're trying to do in Article 8?
Sure, so last year we passed at town meeting the ability to receive certain funds and without the need to have them voted on at town meeting, certain funds can be directly deposited into one of our two stabilization funds. So this article would propose that 50% of the revenue derived from any cannabis host community agreement entered into by the town, 100% of the revenue derived from any ground lease agreement entered into the town. An example of that might be the lease paid for the capped landfill for the Amoresco solar array project that we've been working on. And 100% of revenues derived from municipality rides and revenues disbursement, which is a small amount of money that each municipality gets on an annual basis from like Uber. And 100% of funds collected through the sale of town-owned surplus, worthless, obsolete, or scrap vehicles or equipment. So it made sense to me, if we sold a surplus dump truck, for example, that it would go back into the capital stabilization account, you know, for reuse towards another capital purchase at a later date.
Specifically, the 50% of revenue derived from any cannabis host community agreement. Why 50% and why that location?
50% was the starting point, and we can certainly, before town meeting, adjust that. I thought 50% was a good number. On an annual basis, we can change that, so
And the balance goes to general fund?
it would go into the general fund.
Gotcha, thank you.
Anything else on Article 8? Nothing. Mr. Carmignani, Article 15, you're up.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. On Monday, the board had given me some time to quickly read an article on the treasurer collector's position. I have been able to read the article. I noticed I was going to speak on one article, and it appears that since Monday to now, the town clerk article and the treasurer collector article have been combined into a single one. Originally, it's my intention just to speak on my own. Given they're combined, I'll weigh in on them. I do appreciate that the Board of Selectmen reviews the framework, how the government is being operated. I take it as being part of continuous improvement. Every 6 months or so, it appears that something new has come in, and there are ways to make things better. Previously, we put together things for a wage salary, things like the DPW, even the CIP project. All of these changes were big picture changes. They were very public. there was a goal, very well orchestrated. We had input from others as well as internal input. I don't seem to see the same amount of homework or thought or planning going into these. Previously, it was stated that this was just a fragment of what could be changed, should be changed. Won't delve into that. Objectively, all of the other board submissions that had been put forward had a great deal of homework, and research behind them. And I don't think putting this forward at this time with, to me, what appears to be that same level of research, data collection, what have you, gets it to the next step. I appreciate the board's time here on a Friday night, and nobody really wants to debate the merits of this, but I think you might have a better, stronger approach and get a better final outcome if you put the same or similar amount of time that you did with something like the CIP. That was probably the most recent success, and it was a public process. There was a great deal of public buy-in, and now it is part of the budget process. You would hope the future changes or the future proposed changes would follow a similar course. I'd ask that the Board of Selectmen rethink their position sort of in a broader sense, to go through and do what should be done to effectuate a change at this level. Again, I appreciate everybody's time and for honestly hearing me out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carmignani. Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, I opposed making certain positions elected, and when Aura brought up the issue of making her position not a popularity contest, but a vote, a plebiscite on how well the town clerk at that time was doing the job. She supported that. I believe, and I'm pretty sure, that the current town clerk, Laurie Smith, also supports making it an appointed versus elected position. She's doing a good job, and she believes that if it were appointed and she does a good job, there's no need for an election, there's no need for her to worry. Just like any good employee, you do your job, you do it well, and you get appointed to a 2-year, 3-year term, whatever the case might be, which if we convert these from elected to appointed, I'd certainly be willing to look at a term period and not something that was necessarily done every single year. I think an evaluation process developed by each of the people, the clerk and the treasurer, are important, just like Jonathan has drawn up his job description, his duties, his points of emphasis. The Board of Selectmen buy into those, discuss those with them, and I think that benefits the town greatly. That does not occur with the election of a clerk or a collector. And that's not a comment on the job you've done and are doing, or on the job that Laurie Smith is already doing. But when you have important positions like that, that can be factually and mathematically and objectively tabulated, then that's the way to go for both positions. If I were to separate them, I think it's clear that the town clerk supports going to an appointed versus elected, and I don't know why you oppose it. I don't know the grounds upon which you oppose it. If you're an employee, which, by the way, as an elected official, you are not an employee. Let me say that again. As an elected official, you are not an employee of the town. That has led to some issues. But as the treasurer collector, you have the ability to develop your own job description by which you would be evaluated on an annual basis. And I can't for the life of me think of why, other than a sense of personal insecurity, why you would oppose this article.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Anyone else?
I could not word it better than Mr. Joseph.
Mr. Morrissey, are you good?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm good. I mean, I thought about this a lot. Like I said at our last meeting, the people of Dudley, like to have their hand on the wheel on things like this. So if we vote tonight to put that on the ballot, it's one of those things that, people will probably show up to, let us know how they feel. I think in these are key positions. This isn't just like, whatever. This isn't, I'm just going to say it. We're not here to get rid of anybody. We're not here to do anything like that. We recognize that the people we have in these positions are among the best of what they do, and we have to recognize that and make it happen in such a way that we can move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Marcy.
Thank you.
Anything else on any of these articles before we... Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Administrator, you want a motion just to accept the warrant as presented tonight?
A motion to accept and post the warrant as presented.
A motion to accept and post the warrant as presented tonight.
Can I ask to expand that, Mr. Chairman?
Certainly.
That the board approves the 16-article warrant for the fall town meeting, October 19th, as presented.
Is the motioner okay with that?
No, he can definitely be his motion. I didn't have a second, so that can be the motion.
What was that, Sully?
There was no second for mine, so that can just be the motion then.
Sorry,
Okay.
what was your motion?
Yes, it is.
Well, Paul just made a motion. That was,
Oh, Paul, I'm sorry. I thought I heard Sully talking.
yeah, well, Sully was, no one seconded it. Paul asked for some changes, and Mr. Sullivan asked for that to be the motion.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second.
It was hard to hear. Can you repeat that
Sure.
one more time? Mr. Chairman?
Michelle, do you have?
Thank you.
Paul Joseph motioned to post the warrant as presented tonight, and that the Board of Selectmen approve the 16-article warrant for the town meeting on October 19th as presented.
Did you hear that, Mr. Morrissey?
Okay. I did.
Excellent, excellent, thank you. Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
That's a good job, Michelle.
That is a very good job, Michelle. Very good. I can't write that fast.
Mr. Joseph's motions are sometimes complex. That was good.
I'm still waiting for a simple one, but anyway,
He's the board parliamentarian.
he is. That wasn't a dig at all towards him. That wasn't a dig at all.
No.
Roll call vote.
Paul Joseph, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Carrie Siganovich, unanimous. Next up, I asked for this to be on the agenda. I hope you'll all humor me with this. I'd like to change the Town of Dudley social media permissions. We had an issue last week. I don't want to talk about who it was or what happened, other than no information was leaked. I just think that we should limit to who has access to post on the town social media pages to the town administrator, Board of Selectmen, and Michelle, just because she would be doing most of this. And that's it. No one else.
Well, I would just add, Mr. Chair, maybe we should include the IT director. Sometimes she'll be the only one here that maybe can do it.
The IT,
Who also doubles as a town accountant.
okay.
She's our IT person, right? So,
Yeah.
so sometimes I know in the past, sometimes she's done it at my request.
Okay.
So
I just don't want it, I don't
Oh,
think
no, I
it
don't
should
think
be
it should be a big
willy-nilly.
circle, I agree.
I think it should be town administrator, members of the board, Michelle, and
IT.
the IT person. Thoughts? Anyone want to discuss that?
Well, I'm okay with that as long as the motion specifically lists the people who are allowed to post on our town Facebook page.
If we, would the Board of Selectmen be good enough, or would you want, because if we have the individual numbers, we're going to have to redo it possibly every year.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Ruda?
A few things we have to remember. First, the public can post on Facebook anything they want at any time.
Certainly.
The second thing is that we're limiting the ability for other employees to stream live to Facebook if we needed to go virtual again.
Could they use YouTube instead?
I'd have to set that up.
I think we should do that, because there was something posted to the town's webpage that shouldn't have been. And I don't want to see that happen again.
Okay.
So,
I think I'd be remiss in my duties if I didn't bring this up and push this. Mr. Sullivan?
so as I'm sitting here thinking, and along the lines of town administrator, we include, I mean, I'm not trying to make the circle bigger. We include the local emergency management director in case he has to do something in his official capacity.
Well, I think that he has his own, doesn't he?
I don't know. I know the fire department does, but I don't do Facebook, so.
They both have social media.
But I mean, if he was doing something in his capacity as emergency management director, do we want him to have access to the town's page too, or just fire department?
If he's posting on the fire department's Facebook, which, again, that, we still have the vulnerability there, we have the vulnerability on the police department Facebook. Anybody who can post to that Facebook, unless we reel it all in, could have a repeat of this incident where that person was hacked and something was posted.
And an advertisement was posted that was to be paid, a paid advertisement, which would have cost the town money if it wasn't caught.
All right, I just was thinking, that's all.
Now, Mr. Chairman, you brought this issue up, and I'm glad you did.
Thank you.
Jonathan, you've got ideas on this issue, so I'm asking the both of you, can you combine your thoughts into a single motion?
Yeah, I think, Mr. Chairman, a good motion would be that the town switch, when it comes to doing Zoom or virtual meetings, that the town switch to use the YouTube platform.
What, say again? What kind of platform?
The YouTube platform, and eliminate the Facebook platform.
Mr. Johnson?
I appreciate all the ideas, because the intent is to both tighten the availability to be exposed in certain ways on different platforms. But what I don't feel is, in the 5 minutes that we're gonna noodle on this in the meeting, that will get all the right detail in. So I agree with the chairman, something needs to be done to look at the list of people that are available, which limits the amount of risk that the town faces on there. But what I don't want to do is just hope we remember all the people to write on this motion and pass something forward this week. So what I'd ask is, we get that together over the span to the next meeting and collect those lists and then have a more concrete idea going into the next meeting, and then
That sounds great. Well, you and I will meet before the next meeting, Mr.
Sure.
Administrator? Sure.
sorry about that, but
No, that makes sense. Let's get it
I'm at the meeting.
done right, first time done right. I agree.
All right.
So, Mr. Chairman, can I ask for consent, mutual consent, that this item be tabled to the next meeting? The reason I say that is if the answer is yes, without opposition, then that becomes the first item we discuss on the next agenda.
That'd be a great idea. We'll have an answer by then. We can dispense of it quickly. Everyone okay with that? Mr. Marcy, you're good with that?
I am, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Next up on the agenda is an adjournment. Mr. Joseph, could you take us into executive session?
Yeah,
please?
please.
That's fine. That's
Sorry?
fine, Mr. Chairman. Forget it. Go ahead. Please continue. We're good. I'm sorry, continue.
You're fine?
Yep.
Okay.
No executive?
We have an executive,
We
correct?
do.
We do.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move that we convene into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body as declared by the chair, and not to reconvene again in open session tonight.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Paul Joseph, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Carrie Siganovich, aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.